Hi, I'm Corey.
I'm Bill.
And together,
we host the Unfocused podcast.
I was really hoping you were going to have something catchy again this week.
Well, I was worried about talking because apparently I was reprimanded a while ago for speaking over the intro, and heaven forbid I do that again.
It's true. I don't need that stress in my editing life.
I don't need that stress right now. It's early.
Perfect. Thanks. Today, we're joined by filmmaker and owner of Osito Films, Barrett Dennison. Barrett, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for making time. I know you're in the middle of a move right now.
I am.
I feel like you stopped on your way to your new place here in Nashville.
Absolutely. I've got a bed in the back of my truck right now. moving down. So, but it's not far. I'm living in Bowling Green right now, and we'll be Nashville official starting August 1st. So nice. Excited.
Welcome to town.
It's good.
Welcome.
Good to be here. I hear good things.
Yeah.
It's all lies.
It's just don't go downtown.
That FaceTime call, I lied to you.
Right. Okay. Good. Good to know now.
That was me selfishly just trying to
get me here.
Trying to get you out of LA.
I'm here.
You were successful.
Yes. Oh, I almost forgot before we get started. I brought you a gift.
Oh, thank you.
An SDI cable?
12G shielded.
12G shielded. We're Komodo brothers.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Komodo brothers.
I hope that one's long enough.
Yeah, should be.
It looks good.
That's what you tell the ladies, right? Yeah, exactly.
Leave it to people who work in production to be like, I have you a gift. Here's an SDI cable. And everybody's like, what? Cable. I want an SDI cable.
It's actually a really nice gift. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah. That's going to come in handy.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I know originally I invited you here to talk specifically gaffing because we've had, up to this point, we've had directors, producers, like we have an editor coming up, DPs, and we haven't gotten really deep yet into like grip and gaff and sound and some of the other departments, and we'll get into that. But before we do, I would love to talk about your film school experience.
Okay, sure. So in high school, I got the opportunity to attend Kentucky Governor Scholar. It's like a scholarship program for upcoming seniors. And, you get to pick a major. Some people pick, healthcare, marketing. I chose film.
Nice.
So we had a public access TV network in Glasgow that the high school basically was responsible for.
Really?
Doing advertisements and stuff for, just keeping people aware of like what's going on, when's homecoming, when's the football game, like that stuff. And so it was really news packages we were supposed to make. Well, I went to this, basically summer program where I was studying film and we were making short films, and we were taught by a Hollywood AD, Craig Miller, super great guy. He'd worked on Spielberg films. He'd done some really cool stuff. And
awesome.
So I came back after that and took the class again with the public access. It's called Advantage, and started making short films. Well, those projects tend to stretch. I missed deadlines. I actually made a D, my first D in the class.
Oh no!
But at that time, I'd gotten into college. I'd gotten my scholarship, so that stuff was all figured out. So it really didn't there was no penalty for making a D.
All right.
Yeah.
My only D was ever in video production, by the way.
That's fine.
But I made these short films with my friends, and we made like a Fast and the Furious parody, and we were just doing. It was super entertaining. They were all like, I have a great group of friends. I still hang out with those guys today. And just like really like, who can make each other laugh the hardest, or like it's all just encouragement in the filmmaking. So we started making stuff, and then I went to WKU, which is right down the road in Bowling Green, and they have a tremendous broadcasting program. I've got 2 or 3 buddies that work at news networks around the nation. NBC, ABC, Seattle, Washington, Boston, I have friends all over, and
all out of that program.
All out of that program. And I started doing stuff, I went, thinking maybe I want to go work for ESPN, or, I love sports, but I got into the live production. I was like, this is just not as much fun as, writing something and making it. And so early on, I knew that probably wasn't for me. So I focused on they have a production side of the broadcast program, and now they've developed a film program out of that program. But there was a film minor while I was there, and so I was a film minor, political science minor, broadcast major. But the broadcasting really just quickly became film. I was shooting stuff, and you know, it's actually the same guys, you know, Booba and Swanson, and
Yep.
guy named Jacob Kasinger and Daniel Dunstan, all these guys from college. We just started making short films together. We would enter competitions. You know, that's what we did. We made movies, and so you know, you get hooked on that feeling. I had an internship in Louisville at a company called Video Bread. They do a lot of bourbon, do a lot of horse racing. But that
sounds very, very Kentucky centric.
Yeah. But out of Louisville,
basketball.
Right, in basketball too. Out of Louisville, Kentucky. So I was there for a summer. It was before my junior year, and I was like, you know, I could do the political science thing and probably go work on campaigns, and that's what I was thinking about doing. I was like, let me apply to film school and just see what happens. Yeah. I probably applied way too late to go to some of the major, you know, the USC's, UCLA's.
Yep.
I actually had an interview with NYU, was doing a program in Singapore. What? So I applied to that and had an interview for that, and was like, probably shouldn't go that far away. And then ended up, I had a teacher, Ron DeMars, who went to Miami for his post-grad. And he was like, you know, you think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll have a strong basis coming from here. I'm teaching you very similar things that go in there, but I needed to go out into the world. And
Singapore was too far?
Singapore was a little too far. Miami is a lot closer. Miami was a lot closer. So I ended up going to the University of Miami for my graduate studies. And, you know, I think a lot of people always have questions like, should I go to grad school? Should I not go to grad school? For me, I felt like it was the right choice. You know, I had the opportunity. You know, I was on scholarship for my undergrad. So I had the ability to, you know, to go and do a post-grad, which is, you know, it's a financial decision. And luckily I had, you know, very supportive parents. But it was great for me because I was, you know, definitely a fish out of water. You know, it wasn't in my normal, you know, it's where I grew up. I consider Miami where I grew up as a human being.
Right.
And also as a filmmaker. I was in classes with people who's, you know, didn't speak English as a first language, but, you know, were extremely passionate about cinema. My buddy Luis, Colombian, he came into the program. I think he was 38 when he started, and so I'm coming in at like 23. So that was my best friend while I was in school. So getting to see his experience, and like he had a life outside of film, and he's like, bro, trust me, the real world is not, you know. And that was a lot of my friends were older, and they were like, hey man, like you really got to focus, like treat this like a job. And so I really treated grad school like a job and just focused every day, and it worked out for me. So, you know, I think it's everything I've worked on since has some tie to either Miami or WKU. And so for people like, should I go to school? Should I not go to school? I think it's an individual decision. You can always go out and start working, but it gave me structure, and it gave me, you know, it made it very serious for me once I made that decision.
Yeah, I think the approach to treat it like a job versus like probably a lot of kids would is like college is just an extension of high school. Like, I think that's a really good approach too.
Well, and then I also went to film school, and a lot of the you know, you get the students that are like, I want to make cinema that speaks to me, and it's like art house fluff. But the instructors are like, look, this is a job. This is a career path that you're choosing to do. You can't make a living doing fluffy art house films. You got to think practically, like,
right.
You know, how are you going to get employed when you get out of here? And so, yeah, I agree. Like the takeaway of just like working, it's a job. It's fun that we get to do it. But it is a job, and you have to put in the work for it.
Yeah. And I was taking projects outside of school. I was there, you know, we'd go work on commercials, or I'd Telemundo, Univision, and, you know, I'd be one of the only people who didn't speak Spanish while I was on set. And so like, just that like life experience of like not being, you know, not being being the minority. It was a good experience to like, not be the person driving the decision, and, you know, not being in the leadership role, and someone, you know, saying, hey man, we would love you to come work for us. Here's what you got to do. And you just put your head down and go do it. And, you know, I think that's, you know, paved the way for a lot of my career.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The other thing I think that's interesting is it sounds like your experience sounds a little different than what I think most would define probably broader film workers or cinema today is very much white male driven largely. Like there's still a lot of diversity that exists and continues to grow, but like it sounds like in your experience, you were the opposite to your point, like spending much of that early time in Miami, you being the kind of the diversity versus the norm there.
Right. It was either tell the same old recycled stories that we've been seeing forever, or I could go help people like my friend April, like my friend Louise, like my friend Ronnie, who all come from very different backgrounds than I did, and help them tell their stories.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the most fun because I got to bring, I had a lot of technical experience coming out of WKU that these guys didn't have, but the way that they saw the world and were able to tell stories, like I got to experience that. Like for me, that was the coolest part because they needed me, but at the same time, I also needed them. I needed them to broaden my experience, to open my mind up to certain things that I'd never experienced. And it was just, I just found really cool people to work with and really good partnerships. And, they're still making stuff today, and I still keep in touch with those guys. So,
yeah, that's awesome. No, so from Miami, did you move from grad school in Miami directly to LA, or?
No, so this is, So this is the interesting part of my journey is I got out of school and, coming out of film school, you're gung-ho, you're ready to see the world.
Yeah.
You think you know everything. You think you know how the process works. And I knew it was going to be hard.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't know that it doesn't, it's never a straight line, right? Filmmaking is a big circle, it seems. It's always a big circle. And so I had a friend, like I said, I have a friend, Rico, who's a news producer, and he was in Atlanta at the time. And I was like, I'm going to move to Atlanta. They're crushing it right now. I'll just go there and I'll start producing, right? Because that's how the world works, right? And so at the time, while I was in Miami, I was shooting everyone's project. So I got 2 cinematography awards while I was there. I was directing some stuff, producing some stuff. But then I would also go do G&E on other people's projects. I just always had an affinity for the technology. I love lighting. I think if you, we'll get into that more, I'm sure. But if you understand lighting, it really adds to all the other skill sets, right? Normally it's your biggest budgeted expense, so it helps you produce.
Yep.
Cinematography explains itself. But so I went to Atlanta thinking, I went to all these meet and greets. I was like, hey, I just got out of film school, and crickets. I mean, nothing. I sat on my buddy's couch for basically 2 months. And I had a friend who went to Miami, Brittany, who was on a reality show. She was on Super Nanny. She's like, hey,
okay.
I know you're not busy. She knew I wasn't busy because I was like, hey, what are you working on? And she was like, I'm working on Super Nanny. Would you want to come PA? I was like, man, I don't really want to go PA, but
yeah.
And to anyone who's like, I don't want to go PA, that's the wrong attitude. That's the best place to learn. Even if you're coming out of film school, even if you've been in the business, like if someone gives you an opportunity to walk on set and you're not working, it's a great place to meet people.
Oh, yeah.
And you're always going to learn something new. I think just being open to the opportunity, and eventually you'll move up if you're good. Like it just happens.
Right.
But like you've got to get in, you got to get your foot in the door.
It's like you're not too good to PA when you get out of film school.
Yeah.
Like you're not.
I don't think some directors I think should PA. Some directors I've worked for, some cinematographers I've worked for should PA. But
you got to learn from the ground up a lot of times.
I think for me, it humbled me. It gave me a lot of humility, and it made me appreciate the work a lot more because I saw what you actually have to do to get, what goes in at the bottom floor to make the stuff happen. So I PA'd on Super Nanny. Most of the crew is from Los Angeles, and so a couple of them, they were super cool to me. I helped them do lighting, and they were like, hey, we need help lighting. So I was, taping up LED string lights and, running the light. One of the cinematographer got sick and had to get sent home, so they bumped everybody up. And now I'm doing the lighting. So I'm a PA lighting.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a pay bump. Sorry, guys. That's just how the light world works. But I was media managing lighting and PAing it. And so then finally, a couple of the guys were like, man, you really should think about moving to Los Angeles. I was like, well, when Los Angeles calls, I'll come. When they and they're like, bro, that's not how it works. Like Los Angeles is not waiting for you. It doesn't need you.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, but if you come, you'll work.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that sure does beat sitting on my couch in Atlanta. Which, and I maybe if I'd stuck it out and, took a little different approach, it would have worked out. But I knew more people in Los Angeles at that time, and that gave me the confidence. So I came out January of 2016 and called the guys from the Super Nanny show. One of them was coordinating on Food Network stuff.
Yeah.
Started work the next day. So once again, PAing, but from that PA class, I met one of my best friends, Kyle, while I was there. I just worked with a DP named Eric, who I met on that show. Great friend named Cody, who is a stage manager for esports. So I met all these really cool people who are doing a lot of different stuff, and that's just like that. Your PA group is normally your network, right when you first move to LA. So I would, if anybody's thinking about doing it, just go get on a show, and then like the people you're around, like that is who's your next job. Like that is your meal ticket. Like you've got to support those people. Like they'll be with you. You know, I'm still cool with those guys. I just did the DP Eric. He just called me to gaff the last film I worked on. So hadn't spoken to him in 5 years, and just
still work coming in.
I mean, just a great dude and fun to work with. It was fun to see his journey because we were both, you know, kind of miserable PAs, but a little overqualified in our minds, probably not in our boss's minds.
Hungry for something.
Else. And it's been cool to see, like, it takes a little longer than you think it's going to take, but I think it's a good practice of humility.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's like that also speaks to the cliche. You know, it's about who you know,
right?
And it really is.
It really is.
It's networking is everything in film, and you know you won't get on a set if you're not speaking to people and meeting people, and you know you do meet those people on set where you're like, I like this guy, you know. And then they invite you on another shoot.
And the vibe's good. The vibe's good with the people.
Yeah, the vibe's good,
Yeah. So
when you went out there and started PAing, you mentioned a PA class.
Oh no, sorry. Just like the group you got me with.
Okay, I got you. Like a Dungeons and Dragons class of PAs.
They do have do have trainings for PAs. Like I think
that's why I was gonna.
I think there's one in Nashville. I saw
the Nashville Film
Facebook.
Guild. Hosted one maybe like a month ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There is a learning curve to it, and like you don't want to be that overeager person on a set that doesn't know what they're doing. So I think anything that you can do to like separate yourself and get your foot in the door, and then I think personality is a huge thing. I'm very outgoing, always have been.
Really?
Right. And I think sometimes that can make some people who don't fit that makes them nervous.
A little uncomfortable.
So you've got to know, you got to know who you're playing to.
Yeah. We had a guest on recently, Moise. We spent a lot of the episode talking about gear and tech and just stuff.
A lot of time.
But one of the other things he mentioned, just one of his focuses is continually investing in himself from a skill standpoint. So whether they're like those hosted type classes or like I think he's probably gone through every filmmaking related masterclass at this point.
Yeah.
So I think like don't underestimate that at all. Like any opportunity you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just call it betting on yourself. Like if I invest time on myself, I'm basically exchanging, time and resources into me, thus making myself better. And like if I'm betting on myself, like I feel like that's a can't lose, right? Because I'm going to either level up or change my thinking or, hopefully meet somebody or, I think as long as you're betting on yourself, I think you're in a good spot.
Just that continual evolution of yourself for sure.
And there's always room to grow and learn. I mean, it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have. There's always an opportunity to learn something else. Because like when we had one of our other guests, Mika Matinazad. Like this guy's like 10 years younger than me, and I was learning stuff from him on that show.
The whole episode,
I'm
Bill's
like,
taking notes.
Wow, when I was your age, I was not thinking ahead like you are. So you can always learn. There's always an opportunity.
Yeah,
for sure.
Helpful.
So you were in LA for 5 years, 6 years?
I'm about 6 years. Well, with COVID, it got a little
got a little
numbers
weird.
got a little tricky.
Yeah. So how long were you in LA before you started at like gaffing full time?
So I did a lot of random jobs in LA. I was PAing, and that kind of gave me the opportunity to look for outside stuff. And so while I was in Miami, there were some AFI students that came and shot one of the projects. AFI, of course, known for their cinematography.
Yep.
Incredible school. So I met one of my best friends in LA, Ezekiel Casares, Argentinian DP. Super sweet guy. Actually got to go to his citizen, where he became a citizen.
Yeah.
He asked me to go with him. So that was,
That's
again, an
awesome.
opportunity I never would have had.
Yeah.
But he came and shot a project for my friend Ronnie Khalil, director. And, I was like, whatever you need, I'm happy. So I actually went back to Miami early, coming out of a December break. We shot a movie. And so I was basically just the low man on the G&E team. They just needed help. I knew enough but their expertise was so much far advanced than mine. And I'm a graduate student, but they just, the detail of the AFI program is totally different than the Miami program. Miami is a little more broad. AFI very focused on your individual skills. So got to work with those guys, and I moved out and called him when I moved out. Said, hey, I just moved to town. Love to grab coffee. He goes, where are you living? I told him. He's like, you live a block away from me. And so he has 2 young kids. If he needed help with his kids, I'd help him out, watch his kids. They were super cool. But he had projects, and so I would jump on as, the genie swing. You get paid a little bit more than a PA, but not much more. But, then the skill set starts to come, and you're seeing the real way of doing stuff, and, how you have to act as a Los Angeles craftsman. I mean, it's a totally different ballgame when you're working. I mean, people at that level, even the non-union, are really, really good and work really, really hard, and it's a whole different ballgame than what I learned in school.
Right.
So
it's like an entirely new film school almost.
Exactly.
It's the stuff you learn just being on set, much different than being in the classroom or in.
And
like
I think
a
the classroom,
workshop.
that's what I don't want. Like the classroom stuff really does matter.
It does, yeah.
But
yeah.
if you don't have a mix of the two,
right,
I think you leave yourself short in one or the other, right? If you don't understand the theory, if you don't understand the practice of how to do it, then you leave yourself short. And so I'm glad I have a balance.
Yeah,
but I was definitely more theory before I became more practice. And now that I'm probably more practice than theory now, just 'cause I've done
right.
I've been working so much that it's like you're just like, it becomes second nature. You're not even thinking about why we do some of this stuff. It's just like it is this way.
Exactly.
Right. And I think being open to different ways is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that gave me the confidence working with those guys. I was still shooting. I worked on a project, Alabama Land, a documentary. And so at that time that we were working on the documentary, they were starting to film, super low budget film in Miami with one of my professors was producing. A lot of my former classmates were working on it. And so they were like, hey, we know you're going for Alabama Land. Do you want to come to Miami and work on the film? I was like, well, what do you need? They're like, we need someone who knows lights. I was like, okay, I'll come gaff. And so I was paying $100 a day, right, to gaff a film. But that was my first gaffer credit. I think looking back, the money was low, but I learned a ton from it. Really good DP, really quick schedule, and so you just had to be on your stuff. And so once I had a gaffer credit, right, once I was able to come back to LA and still PAing, still working on different stuff, and hey, I just gaffed this movie, and talking to some of the PAs, now that PA is going to AC a movie, they just lost their gaffer. So now it's $350 a day. Do you want to come gaff? Right?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
It's a month-long show. It's 2 miles from where I'm living in LA.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's that's easy.
Right.
So I walk on set, and once again, it's just you keep learning. I had a really good key grip on that show who's, tough on me, which I needed. And I think that relationship is really important, the gaffer key grip relationship. I've had great key grips. I've had to go grip for them, when I've been slow on the gaffer side. And so like just learning that side, it's 2 totally different sides of the genie spectrum.
Yeah.
But boost your skill set.
Yeah. But that second gaff job that month long, that came from a prior PA connection. That PA went to go AC and just that network then. And
we just talked about I had just seen him. I was watching Shane Hurlbart's his master classes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw Kevin in the background. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I just hit him. I was like, Kevin, dude, I just saw you on Shane. Like, how's working with him? He goes, oh, it's great. I'm learning a lot about light. I was like, that's awesome, man. I just gaffed a movie, blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, hey, man, I'm doing that too. And I think it's awesome. You're doing that. And
just keep
you're
it alive.
getting outside the PA. Because you always want to level up. You want your guys to level up. And sometimes, you can get stuck in that same rut where you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And so it was like, oh man, like you see guys at your level going out of it, and you're like, oh man, I can do it. I can make it out. And then you just you don't see it. You're just like, I got to keep making money so I can stay in LA. And then the opportunity comes, and you're like, hallelujah, and you get out.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to spill the tea on anybody specifically, but working in LA,
yes, sir.
I can't imagine you didn't see some crazy stuff on set, or just being a part of some really fantastical, wild productions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
compared to what we see here.
I got yelled at a couple times, and I don't know if it was.
It happens.
It happened. I don't know if it was me like being overzealous about, I think the best thing, I was watching a YouTube of a gaffer, an Australian gaffer, and he gave, this is the best advice I think I've heard, but he's like, your level of care has to be at the level of the directors, right? It can't be above the level of directors, right? You cannot care more than the director about a shot. Because when you do, you're putting your ego over the movie. And so if you don't care about the movie at that level, like sometimes it's just a shot. Like sometimes it's just a shot. But, if I'm in there yelling, the ratios are off, like this looks terrible, like that's not my job. My job is to support the vision of the director. And so I can, whisper it to him. And if he's like, hey, man, it's good, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But if I bring my ego into it and I'm like, this looks terrible, that's not my job. And you can't care less than the director either.
Yeah.
So, and then you're gonna miss stuff, or you're gonna, your work's gonna slack. So I think there's a really fine line of where your care should be.
I feel like I got to experience that firsthand on a project we were on recently.
Yeah,
shooting overnight, and we were just having that dialogue as we were going through. Like, I'm camera op, you're gaffing, and we're just like, I think that example of don't care more than the director. Not that the director didn't care, but I think we're trying to be really technical and really like there's still more that can be done.
right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to go. Sometimes you're on a time constraint.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's budget. Sometimes the actor's hot and you want to go get the performance.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with it and resolve later. We'll punch stuff up and dial stuff. But it's if you go in caring too much, your ego's too big, and you really gotta, if you don't put the movie first, then why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Right.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Everyone needs to hear that. That's a great takeaway.
Well, and I only say it because I got
punished.
punished. I got punished for caring too. I got yelled at. We had a DP who had to step off because he was shooting another show while we were on a project, and so the cam ops get bumped up, right? But I'm the gaffer, so I know the light,
Right.
and so hey, we need to. This is not. You don't have enough light. Okay, we're gonna shoot. No, you need more light. We're gonna shoot. I said, guys, it's not gonna work. Go outside. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So I got
Yeah.
and I'm frustrated outside, and I'm like, but I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong. I think my approach, maybe I was right, and this is something that's been hard for me.
Yeah.
Is I'm normally, and my friends will laugh at this, but I'm normally correct.
Yeah.
But it's my approach to being correct is wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Technically speaking, you were correct.
I'm correct.
Yeah.
But doesn't matter if it falls, if the person you're talking to can't hear it,
Then
what a waste of time.
Yeah.
What a waste of time.
Yeah.
Just roll with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes people got to learn their own lesson too, So you can't fix everybody's problem. Sometimes they have to learn on their own. Like, oh man, we definitely underexposed.
Yeah.
That's my favorite approach. Is just like, I'll be there to
look and see what happens.
Yeah. Let me.
The your funeral approach. I don't know if that's the right. I think you can
not
whisper
that
it
that
and-
hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Whisper it, and then it's up to them. Then I've put the ball in your court.
Yeah.
It's up to you to take the jumper.
Yeah.
or
It's
miss
like
the jumper.
a subtle like, hey, maybe you might like it if we tried this.
And that
Right.
approach, I think, works way better than you're wrong.
Oh,
Why are you
definitely.
doing this?
You're screwing it up.
You're screwing it up.
Yeah. That's
At least in
funny.
my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you worked on some pretty cool projects that I've seen, like the recent Atlas Orion Silver Series, that little promo short they shot. Any other, like, or maybe in your mind, like, what's the biggest, like, just wildest project you had the experience to work on while you were out there?
I've got a couple, and they all are different. How I worked as a project manager for a company called Megatrax for a long time, and that's probably where I learned the most about how to be a professional, but also the technical stuff. I was working with the guys that were, had 30 years in the business. They were riggers, they were motion control, and those guys just really like invested into me, and so they taught me all this different stuff. But it was a high-speed camera dolly, went 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. We did stuff for NASCAR with it. But it just had it was a really hard development. It was a really expensive piece of machinery. So they're no longer in business now, but like I'd always tell the founder, I'm like, thank you so much for letting me work on this, because I learned so much. And, he's upset, but, he's like, I'm glad you got something out of it. But just getting to be around like true professionals, and, and they really respected what I tried to do for them. I'd organize the days, hotels, flights, gear, machinery. I was going to Home Depot 3 days a week, so it's like I got to learn all that, like, really tactile, tactile work in the film business. But that was really cool. And I did a film with Sylvester Stallone, kind of one of those B movie for China, Emmett Furlow Oasis Films, which you can Google that if you need to. We got to spend a week with Sylvester Stallone. His best friend John Hertzfeld was my boss. I know John a lot. He's done some crazy stuff in the business. One of the coolest things, he gave Charlize Theron her first role.
Wow.
So, she's on speed dial on his phone.
Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg was asking him for notes on a movie one time. It's just, he has all these connections to all these people. And he's just, I call him the wild man. He never sleeps, never eats. Always we were working 14 hours a day on rewrites of this movie for 6 weeks before we shot it in Ohio. And so that was really tough, but it like showed like, if you grind, you can figure it out, and just to like be around smart people, just put yourself around smart people. And, even, the movie is what it is. It's a B-level action movie. It's a fun movie. But, you just see like all the work that has to go into making something like that. And, even on small movies, man, people go so hard and respect us so much. So it's hard to make any movie, I think.
It is, yeah.
And to make a good movie is exceptionally hard.
Yeah. But probably one of the bigger benefits of being in the marketplace there is just the frequency and the diversity of work that exists.
Right.
Like there are probably a good even number of people that aspire to move to LA to get into the business, and probably an equal number of people in LA that are like, all right, I've done my time.
Yeah.
And it's time to take my skills elsewhere, which I feel like you probably recently experienced that.
Yeah, I was at the point in my career where I was gaffing nonstop, and when I went to LA, I was I still shoot and produce, and a lot of those jobs came from gaffing. It's like, here's a competent gaffer. What else can you do? Or someone would refer me, or like if I had a DP friend that needed something produced, I would produce it for him. And I just think you learn so much about the business doing G&E. I think that's like I said before, it's probably your biggest monetary spend. Maybe art be similar, but it's normally your biggest crew base on a project. And so I just think having that information as a crew member, how to talk to crew members, how to produce, where the schedule's going to get ate up, where the pinch points of the project are. And so, I had just been gaffing nonstop, and I basically worked after things opened up again in LA. I was about 6 months straight, just no breaks, music videos, and then finally got a feature that got me out of music video world, and the feature was really fun. But at that time, I'd kind of made my mind up. I had a conversation with you and some of the guys in Bowling Green about, what would it look like if I moved back. I had been here because of COVID. COVID displaced me for sure. I'm type 1 diabetic. And so when it hit in February, or early March of last year, I called my mom. I was like, I don't really, I went to the grocery, and it kind of freaked me out. And I was like, I don't really know if I should stay here, because if something goes wrong, it goes really sideways really quick for me, because I'm, as much as I'm not disabled, but I'm immunocompromised for certain things. But so I got out of town. I came back to this part of the world for the first time in 10 years for an extended period of time. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being back and the people. And, I got to, work with you guys and see the quality of work you were doing. And I was like, if we can maintain that quality of work, then I'll be happy. Yeah. I'll be happy working at that level. And hopefully there's more stuff in Nashville, more people I can, connect with, and hopefully, help them out with some, taking that skill set.
Well, this
all
is
kinds of opportunities.
This is the best time to come back to Nashville, because there's so much happening here now.
Nashville's really grown.
It continues to grow. Yeah.
Right. It's not the Nashville of my childhood.
Oh, no.
This was my city growing up. This is the closest city to where I grew up. So just seeing it evolve and what it could be was exciting. You know, it was, do I join the union, try to get in the union as a gaffer, and all I'm going to do is gaff for the next, 5 to 10 years, maybe taking some producing projects when I can.
Yeah.
Or do I change it up, try to get closer to home? My family went through some stuff last year, and just being far away for that was really tough.
Yeah.
And so getting back to where I'm if something goes wrong, I'm a car ride away, not
Much closer.
Yeah.
not an airplane. So
Exactly.
I talk about this with people too. Is I think a lot of people I met in LA were running away from their families in a way, or trying to create separation. And like I have a great family.
Yeah.
And I always I talked to Frank Gwen Rogers, who's a producer here, and she's like, "Don't you think it's so weird?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love my family." And people in our line of work typically have like these weird relationships that, not speaking for everybody. I don't, I don't know your situations either, but I just was like, man, I would love to be close and get to do the work. And so I thought this was a great compromise of both those two worlds.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
And we talk about this a lot on the show, is just the film community in Nashville in particular is so much different than, what you get out in LA or New York. It's just, it's more family feeling,
right.
Even just within the network of people that you work with here. Everybody's trying to help everybody out. You're only like 1 to 2 degrees away from the next guy. Like
right.
They've heard of you, or they've worked with you,
Yeah.
or seen your work. And so, there's not a lot of, it's not oversaturated to the point where it's every man for themselves. Like
right.
there's enough family dynamic, even with the growth that's still present in this town.
Yeah, there's
And
there's
it's just a great
definitely
thing.
some production competition for sure.
For sure.
But I think at the same time, like to your point, it's pretty regular that if someone can take a job, like
They'll reach out to,
not only will they like reach out to their own
Yeah.
network, but like I get messages all the time, like a friend of a friend of a friend, like
yeah.
that, which just means I'm like 3rd or 4th on the Rolodex of, but still like I don't know this person, and I'm probably competing for them
Yeah.
with them for part of this hustle. But
Yeah. Well, I feel like
We're
that's
still
how it was in
open to
LA to a degree. I mean, that's obviously bigger when it's more people, but
Yeah.
in certain networks, like, we're a referral business, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think my resume has ever gotten me a job. I mean, maybe it has,
Right.
or, I think once you have been, you get passed by someone of trust, someone trusts you and they pass you on, then they may look at your resume. But
Yeah.
if someone doesn't vouch for you, and, I don't,
oh yeah, sponsorship is a big
it's
deal.
huge.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
The cosign.
Yep.
Yeah. The biggest deal.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited to see what Nashville is and the community and
I'm excited to see what
quality
you
of
make
work.
here.
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
see. Let's see. I'm excited.
So
Yeah, it's
your
gonna be great.
production credits here in town, they'll be under the Osito Films.
Yes. So, that came about. I needed a production company at the time. My friend had a contact at Samsung who wanted some internals done for their smart program. So I incorporated in Kentucky, a lot cheaper than LA. Got production insurance, and I was producing. So for those of you out here, I think there's a sharp learning curve when you start doing it. But I had a lot of people, Aubrey Canfield. I messaged her. I was like, "Hey, I need to see your budget sheets. I need, and I think like what you said, sponsorship. I think people are kind enough to invest their time in you and show you how to do something.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I mean, there's a million ways to skin it as a producer. There's totally different styles, totally different projects people are working on. But, one thing I try to do is always pay my crew up front. I try to get at least get 50% of the budget so that I can operate.
Yeah.
And, 1 to 2 day projects, that seems to work pretty well. So it's been good. I've gotten to do some cool stuff under my banner, and, I still freelance a ton, and I love working on other people's stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. I think I like to wear all the different hats, and that's probably a good reason why I decided to put the LA stuff on hold, and I just try to do some other stuff, which is what I enjoy.
So let's before we talk about some of the projects that you worked on recently, the origins of your production company name. There's got to be a story behind that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
first, what does it translate to?
it's the little bear. Yeah, El Osito, the little bear.
Yeah.
And then films is películas or films.
Right. Films? What?
Films? What?
Are we talking about films? Huh?
So in grad school, Miami has a great program where they paid for my class to go to Antigua, Guatemala, and you basically are teaming up with like an NGO in that part of the world. There's a company, Actuality Media, who coordinated ARRI, who I just mentioned. She runs Actuality Media. And, I really fought her on how the best way to go about what we're doing. So we got matched up with a school, and we were going to tell the story of the school. And I was like, this is lame. Like, let's just go shoot. She wouldn't let me take a camera. At the time, I was shooting all the time. I had Canon 5D, the OG, one of my favorite cameras. Yeah.
I wish this was a video podcast so people could see you just like
shout out
the shout out to the sky for the 5D.
Everybody knows
my
5D.
Praise
to the recently
Mark
deceased
II,
5D.
RIP, dude.
RIP.
So I was shooting all the time, and she had this really specific way she wanted to go about it, like figure out what your story is before you go shoot, before you get a camera. It's like, that's lame. I know, we'll figure something out. Let me just shoot. And what that did was it organized our process, it organized our thoughts. It made us, like, we were a 4-person team, so we really had to know what we were trying to go get. And in that time, we were doing interviews of, like, some of the students at the school, and we ended up, it's a project called Romana. We can link it if you want.
Yep.
One of my favorite things I've ever worked on. But, I don't speak Spanish. So my buddy Luis, we were going around this school, and all these little kids would run up to me and, ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? What's your name? And, Barrett. And, they couldn't, the double R, I don't know, something about it. It just, if you don't speak English, Barrett's not the easiest thing to say.
Yeah.
And so Luis is like, Osito, el oso, the little bear. And so all these little kids for the next week are going, Osito, Osito, and yelling at me in the streets. And, and I just felt like it stuck, People have called me Bear growing up, People are lazy and don't want to do the double, double syllable. And I have a bear-esque physique, I would say, especially in West Hollywood. But El Osito stuck. And, when I came to starting this production company, I was like, I need a name. I was like, El Osito. And so, I have friends in Miami, they call me Osito, and it just stuck, man. It's a good, it's a good fit.
And it's a really good story. Like that's super meaningful to you versus
me making up something.
Yeah.
Which is, the name of my company means nothing. I just Googled it and I was like, I can't find it.
It means something to you.
It means something to me. Yeah. It has no cool story though, except I Googled it and couldn't find it. That's the only story I have.
The only thing is you're always worried that people are going to think you're doing only Spanish specific projects.
Oh, that's
have you run into that?
No, it's honestly been pretty cool. People meet me and they're like, oh, okay, we get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you got El Osito and the little bear. Right. So it makes sense.
Yeah. But it's been cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Recent projects that you've worked on. I know we were together last Friday.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I love live performance. I love getting to. That was for me. I told Chris Booby Young, I was like, man, it was so great just getting to shoot and not have to do all this other stuff. I have always felt really comfortable with a camera in my hand, and in LA, I feel like that's something you had to really fight all the time to be the shooter,
to be the camera.
Right? There's for every post on Facebook you see of someone looking for a cinematographer, there's 100 people posting on it, and so I think you really have to fight to get to shoot stuff. And, I shoot stuff when my friends are working on it or, stuff worked out. But it was just nice to, here's a camera. All you got to do is shoot. I help with the lighting just because I know it and I'm good at it. But it's more suggestions than like, this is what we, they knew what they wanted.
Plus, we had a giant LED wall.
LED walls are tough to beat.
Easier.
I saw the BTS for that shoot. It looked really awesome.
It was fun. It was fun. Good BTS stuff, Travis. So yeah, and it's like, just give me a camera and let me find stuff. And if it were, and the collaboration with Booba has always been really pretty easy.
Yeah,
I know he has a strong vision, and I think that's the most important thing you can have as a director.
He's also influenceable though.
Yeah, well, it's a collaboration, right? So if I give him an option, and he's like, "Yeah, I like that. Great. or no, here's what we need. Great. Now I know
where your head's at.
I'm not someone who, if you can give me a reason to defend it, we're cool forever. If you're wishy-washy, I sense that, and I need a backbone. I've always
keep going.
I always have needed. I need someone to just tell me the truth. Just be straight up.
Yeah.
Don't be wishy-washy. And I think that's the people I've gotten along with the most. And there's a directness, I think, of working in LA that I'm maybe gonna try to soften coming back to the South. That I've noticed that may not go over as well. But I think being direct, I call it nice and kind, right? So I think I'm a kind person, but I'm not always nice. I think nice sometimes gets in the way of being honest and direct. I think it's more important to be,
like a high degree of candor on set makes things move a lot quicker.
It's efficient, and if I hurt your feelings, it's never the intention. And if you hurt my feelings, I mean, I'm a sensitive guy. I mean, but I'll let you know, like, hey man, that hurt my. Like, I think it's just better to just get it out in the open.
Yeah.
I think I'm a big Brene Brown. I like the vulnerability of strength. I think that's an important part of life. If you're not willing to explore that side of yourself, I don't think you can be true to the project. If you're not being true to the project, why are we here?
Yeah. And then the collaboration component too.
Exactly.
I feel like the culture on set can be either amazing when there's great collaboration, or it could be the complete opposite.
Yeah. And if you're never listened to and you're stifled all the time, that sucks, because sometimes once again, you're right. You're right, but you may not be right for the certain instance. And, I think a good idea can come from anywhere. It can come from your PA, because I was that PA. I was the PA that had an idea. And I think it's important to listen to those guys and try to boost them and see what they're doing. I got a really cool Instagram message. The Cavi, the PA on our last show, he's kind of worked as a key PA. I was like, bro, you need to quit key PAing. I was like, you need to go AD.
Yeah.
You have that skill. He was like, man, I know. I just never. He finally messaged me because, hey, I just AD'd. He's like, I took your advice. I was like, man, that's sick. That's
awesome.
A great feeling.
Yeah. Leveling up.
You get the proud dad feeling.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, oh man, I was just kind of off color. Like, bro, you need to quit doing, grow up. Go do something.
Yeah.
Test it. At least test it. And if it doesn't work out, you can always come back.
Yeah.
And he went and did it, and I think it worked out pretty well for him.
That's great.
He'll probably do it forever, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another good version of sponsorship. Sometimes somebody just needs to know that you're their sponsor.
Right.
Like I believe in you. You got this. Just do it.
Well, and I don't think we realize and I know the people that did it for me in my life probably don't realize the impact that it had on me, of just hey man, you have a skill set. You should come to LA. And then I'm sitting there on my couch being like, I have a skill set. I should move to LA. That's probably a good idea.
Playing over and over again.
Playing over and over. And then you're sitting on your couch and you're like, man, I'm so sick of sitting here. Let's do something. I think there's a point to being optimistic. And then there's also with that optimism, you have to be opportunistic, right? You have to go get it. Nobody's going to hand you it. You have to go find it. And I think that's the activity that you gotta find.
Well, it's so easy, to be self-conscious and to be, we talk imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like imposter syndrome
it's prevalent.
Runs rampant.
Some of my favorite people that I respect the hell out of their work have it.
Yeah.
And I talk to them all the time about it. They're like, I've been on Instagram and I've got imposter syndrome. And I'm like, but you're better
amazing.
than these people we're watching. You just got to get your shot.
And the response is
sometimes
always,
they just need a shot.
I don't know. And fear. We talk fear a lot too. Fear holds a lot of people back.
For sure.
Because they're afraid of criticism. They're afraid they're not good enough. The imposter syndrome. But it's I always say the worst thing you can do is nothing at all.
Right.
Just do something. Just put yourself out there.
Even if
it might
you fail.
be scary.
Even if you fail.
Yeah, you won't regret doing it.
I think the problem is we see a lot of finished projects. We see a lot of finished work.
Right.
And so you're not seeing the rough cut. You're not seethe
blood, sweat, and tears.
Right. The student films of some of the people you respect and love.
Yeah.
The first albums of the unsigned artists. That, we see too much finished work, and we're you know, snap their fingers.
You
and
didn't
it
just show
happened.
up on set, work a half day, and like put out this amazing 30-minute short.
I mean, it's hard for everybody. You just don't see it.
Yeah,
all.
some of your favorite things people prepped for 10 years to make.
Yeah.
Like, or they were in development hell, or
lost sleep over.
there was 13 writers on the project. Like, you know, it's like you're not giving enough credence to the work. And I think, like, for me, it's like I think you have to stay dedicated to the work and not the result. And that's super easy to say because we're in such a result-driven society. And, like, if you're not making your work for you, and I think you do a good job of that, like, you make stuff for you, you make stuff you respect, and then also, like, the people you're making it for love it too, which is sick. But, like, if you're not, like, loving it at the end of the day, like, what a waste.
What's the point?
Right.
Yeah. Now I would love to connect the dots between the vulnerability and then also, like, just do it even if you fail. Can we be vulnerable for a moment here? I would love to talk about just like your process creatively. I know you produced a lot of projects, been on a lot of projects where you've probably taken risks. Biggest creative failure you feel like you learned the most from?
This was so hard. So I had started a documentary in probably 2017, and I guess I was just naive about how it would affect me emotionally and affect. So there was a little girl who ended up missing, and then they later found her dead. She was a twin. It was a really kind of a messy court case. Stepfather got arrested, you know, and I started doing interviews for it. My friend sent to me like, man, you should really try to do like a making a murder of this. And it was in my hometown. I was like, okay, like, let me see. So I was, every now and then I'd fly back for 2 or 3 days and do an interview.
Yeah.
I was working with a company there, and that company was just getting started as a full-fledged production company. And so they had a lot of stuff on their plate too. And so, you know, we basically collect all these interviews, and then I still do not know what happened in this court case. And I think, you know, for me as a filmmaker, it was hard to, like, cause you're always looking, I think, one of my professors said, you know, a script has to make sense, but real life never does.
Yeah.
And so this was definitely real life. It's, you know, I think, you know, at the time I was very critical of the policing involved. And I realized that they're doing the best they probably could with the information they had. I'm critical of the, you know, people prosecuting it. They're doing the best they can with the information they had. I'm critical of the people involved with it. You know, they were using drugs at the time. So how do you know what the truth was?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was one of those things I probably bit off a little bit more than I was willing. And maybe I could have got through it, but emotionally, like, I was depressed working on it. I didn't enjoy the process. And, you know, like I said, the other production company, I didn't have enough help at the time. They were starting their stuff, and like, they had to feed their families. I couldn't be mad at them for taking other stuff.
Right.
And so it was just a real big, you know, and I still communicate with some of the family members today, and I feel awful that they had to go through this, and just a really messy, and sometimes there are no winners and losers. It's just life. Like, you know, life is messy, and
it doesn't make sense.
And it does, and I could not figure. I was like, I can't figure out what happened and what I really want to say with it, and I don't know if they do either. They just somebody wants to know what happened. I'm not sure if anyone ever will.
Yeah.
Well,
which is sad. Other than the people that were there, and once again, there was drug use. So who knows?
And what a heavy doc to, like, try to jump into.
Yeah.
There's a lesson.
Be mindful.
Be
of the
mindful
topic
of what you're going to get into.
Yeah.
And that goes with feature films too. I think some people, there's weight to what there's emotional weight to what we make. And
well, if you're invested in it and like you truly want to see it through,
right,
then you start making emotional connections, mental connections to whatever the story is.
Right. I had a niece that was like, she's 4 now, but at the time she was getting close to that age, and I just couldn't close my eyes and not see that. And so just the connection there, I was like, bad things happen in life. It's tough.
Well, and speaking of that, like, I worked for 5 years on a documentary that I directed called Hear Me Now that was about bullying, because that was something that I dealt with personally. I was like, look, I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to talk to people that have been through it. It was a roller coaster. I had to go back to therapy during production just because of all the stuff it brought back up.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons it took 5 years
Yeah,
to get.
you probably buried it. You probably were like,
Yeah.
all right, I've worked this, I'm gonna bury it, and then
Yeah.
you rehash it every time in the edit. You're just like,
But it's one of those things where it's like, I gotta get through this. I gotta get through. You know, you gotta tell yourself you gotta get through it.
Again, because you were committed to it.
Yeah,
Like, to telling that
exactly.
story, right?
And it's not just, to be clear, like it's not just these documentaries that where you're talking to real people that you can get emotionally connected to. You can get emotionally connected to a script, just a story that you're in love with, and you can get very attached to it. And you know, that's good because it puts a lot of passion behind it, and I think people can see that both on set and, you know, in the finished product. But you know, you gotta have guardrails. You gotta have boundaries because you can go a little too far with the way you feel about it, and it can ruin the project.
a lot of people have a problem with, you know, say they have a script and they really love it and they're the writer on it. You know, if someone buys it and develops it,
Yeah,
they're going to chop that up. Like it's not going to
Exactly.
look like what it looks like in your head. And so you have to be okay with like,
You have to
okay,
learn
I'm
to let go a
giving
little
this
bit.
away, right? I'm giving this away, and it's up to you to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find the right people to take care of your project, right?
yeah,
And so you see a lot of people, you know, holding on to their project and it's never going to get made. But
Yeah.
if you let go of the leash a little bit, you have
Yeah.
a chance to make a film and you have a chance to get your name out there. And so I think it's, I talked to a lot of writers that, you know, are upset that they let their baby go, and then, but they made a movie, you know, someone made
Yeah.
a movie of your work.
it's taken me years to get to that place.
Right.
For so long, I was the naive, too close to the chest person with story ideas, but I finally gotten to a point where I'm like, you know what, I created something, and you know, I'm giving it to the world.
Right.
So if that's someone buying it and changing it or shelving it or whatever it might be, I did the thing. I created it and I put it out there and I did my part.
Yeah.
So this is the next stage of life for this story that may not involve me.
Do you have any screenplays I can buy?
Yeah.
Like we're getting
I
an
do,
option deal
actually.
right
Can I-
now. Dollar option. Let's
Do you have
go.
anything I can option? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking for whatever my next thing is.
I wrote a lot last year since I wasn't on set.
I can't imagine why. All that free time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, last question for you before we get into our lightning round that we still don't have an intro for.
John Bailey, he just did a commercial with Ryan Reynolds. We need to get him to do it.
Nice.
Oh,
We drop his name a lot.
maybe we could get Ryan Reynolds to
Even better.
To
Even
announce it.
better.
announce for it. I mean, I feel like he's willing to do anything to promote himself or
Yeah.
any of his projects.
It's products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart investment.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Killing it.
All right, last question. If you could give one piece of advice to any young creative, maybe it's a filmmaker, maybe they want to get specific into a trade, just somebody that's wanting to get into the business of creating visual content, with all the experience that you have, your life lessons through school and in LA and everything, like what would that one like critical piece of advice be?
I feel like I've given a few.
Oh, I mean, you've
things
given
already.
a lot.
I think I've given a few already. I'll just say what I admire in people I work. You know, I've worked with a lot of people. I mean, I'm 32 at this point. Worked with a lot of like tenacious DPs and directors who are less than 25.
Yeah.
And I think what impresses me most about them is that they have blinders on, and they're so, what's the word? They don't care. Right. They're going and getting it, and they're not afraid of the consequences of their work.
Yeah.
They're just,
Yeah.
they're aggressive. You know, no one's ever going to tell a 23-year-old DP or 23-year-old director, hey man, you're too young to be doing, you know, but like when you're working with them, you're like, man, this guy's really young, but they know their stuff. They're good and they're tenacious, and like, you just can't dissuade them for what they like, the vision they have. And they have so much like aggressive vision. I would say it would be the most important
Just
part.
commitment.
Commitment to
their own
yeah.
internal commitment is like,
yeah.
I'm going to make this happen.
On set, you don't see like, you know, I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, you know, even some of the, you know, tougher genie guys I've worked with, if they're like sharks in the water. If they smell weakness, it's like it's blood in the water.
Yeah.
If you look like you don't know what you're talking about, you know, and I don't think you have to know everything. I think you can add like, those are great people. They've, you know, I think what a key grip in a year will do, you know, the ones I've worked with will do probably 10 to 15 projects, right? Whether feature film, I mean, probably maybe more with music videos and stuff, but they'll do 10 to 15 good projects. A director in a year, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 projects. So just the amount of experience those guys have, like they're great pieces of, you know, they're great people to, hey, what do y'all think about this? Here's what we're thinking about doing. But I would just say have the confidence in your work, have the confidence in yourself. And, you know, if you don't know something, make a decision and be okay with being wrong. Yeah. I think just, you know, but I think making a quick, strong decision, I think that's what impressed me the most.
Well, have confidence in yourself.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said about directors. Don't be wishy-washy. Know what you want.
Know what you want.
And if you don't know what you want, don't show that you don't know what you want. There's a lot to be said about you know, masking your insecurities on set, because it is like sharks in the water.
Sharks in the water. People. And I would say, like, so maybe you're not going in as like, it's really hard to direct, right? It's really hard to get those opportunities. When you get them, knock them out of the park, right? But you know, say let's just talk PAs. I think that's how I had to go in. I came out of film school. You know, I definitely felt like I was overqualified, but I think the most important thing that taught me was humility, to respect the people around me. You know, those people had to work their ass off too to get to where they are, you know, and there's a lot of people at home who would quit their 9-to-5 careers to be able to have an opportunity to do what we get to do. And, you know, I think, you know, at that level, you have a kind of a gilded view of what we do. And like, we're getting crustier as we get into it. But I still think, you know, there's days, and I always talk, you know, it's like not the 90-10, you know, 90% of the time it's going to feel like work, but you're looking for that 10% time where it just all, like I felt like last Friday, it just all lined up. Yeah. It was just, and I'm always chasing those days where it's just like, man, that was fun. That was a great day. I've got no comments. I thought we did a great job. We gave everything we could, and the vibe was good. And like, so you're always chasing these like perfect sunset days, right? Some days it's going to end up raining, and sometimes we're going to get rained on. Sometimes the loadout's going to suck. Sometimes you're not going to have an elevator when you're leaving the location, you know, so you have all these problems, but like you're always chasing those like perfect days.
That Friday was great.
It was great.
I'm jealous.
It was great.
Sorry. I saw all of the BTS.
It happens, and when it happens, you just got to
enjoy it.
You got to enjoy it, because you know that sometimes you're going to have an overnight that's going to be tough.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to I did a movie of overnights. And so, like, you know, it changes your life.
Everything went so well on that Friday, I feel like. Like, we were originally, oh, yes, definitely knock on wood. But we were planning on it being a pretty late night, and we wrapped several hours early.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's efficiency right there.
And everything looked fantastic.
But also, I mean, we had we had specific roles, and everyone did their job to a high level. And I think that's all you can ask for. It's like, and, you know, on that, I wasn't a producer. I wasn't a director. I was a cam op. And so, like, my job is to cam op the best I can cam op.
And you cam opped the shit out of that Komodo.
I'm not trying to produce this shoot. That's not my job. And so, like, knowing what you're there for, I think is super important. And like, we can all aspire to be the director, but if you're not the director on the project, you've got to come with the same passion of the director, not more, not less, right?
And that's
in your specific job.
And then you get done ahead of schedule, and you know everything's, you know, traffic is flowing.
That might be the best piece of advice I've probably ever heard.
That's a great piece
as
of
it
advice.
Relates to working on set.
Yeah.
Your level of give a damn has to match the director's.
Has to match.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I want to work with directors who really give a damn.
Right.
I really, because I really,
you
care.
really do.
Yeah, I might care too much, and I think that's been a penalty in my life. So maybe the South will soften me down a little bit again. Which
I don't know. I like this version of Barrett. Like I'm good with it, but
thank you.
Not everybody is, I'm sure.
It could be an acquired taste. I don't know. We'll see.
I think we're like 4 or 5 projects in together. So
for sure,
I've acquired.
You've acquired the taste.
I couldn't finish that sentence. I could not. I was not going to finish that sentence, but yes.
And I had a great group in LA that had figured out how best to use my skill set, and like I miss those guys, and hopefully I get to see them soon and work with them. But you got to find your tribe. I think that's important for people starting out too.
Yeah,
not everybody's gonna share your vibe.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
The good news for you though is it's like $180 flight direct from Nashville to LA. So
True.
Oh yeah.
that's an easy
True. Get back to Miami if I need to.
pick it up. Yeah.
I'm a regional filmmaker now. I'm moving around. It's good. Atlanta's not too far away. So
You're just easing right into it.
Yeah.
Just regional filmmaker.
have camera, we'll travel. Ready to go.
Is that the first line in your Instagram bio?
Have camera, we'll
Yeah.
travel.
Where are you based? USA.
USA. Yeah.
Wherever you need me.
Right.
Awesome. Let's get into some lightning round stuff because this is always really fun.
Lightning round.
I want to randomly push one of these
Did we do
buttons
enough
and-
gaffer for you though? Is that enough?
That's more gaffer than we've had
Okay.
on the show.
Do you need more technical gaffer?
No,
Okay.
I think it's good.
The holistic approach to gaffing.
Yeah, I think what would be, and we could talk about this, maybe since you're local now, maybe we should get you in every now and then for like a little gaffer episode.
Sure. Film School Friday gaffer.
Actually, yeah, we could maybe start pulling in guests for
Scenarios.
Film School Friday.
Yeah, because we did a gaffer episode, but I just talked about like
What a gaffer
it
is.
was. Yeah. But not the
Yeah, we talked
technical
scenario.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. I think the first.
I would love to talk about it sometime, like camera DPs versus lighting DPs and the difference and how that really affects the gaffer's role.
Yeah, I think
That's a good one.
I think the first return episode for you, I'd like you to listen to Bill's gaffer episode.
Sure.
And just totally.
We'll just live listen and I'll comment on it.
I mean, all I did was talk about like what is a gaffer? Where does the word gaffer come from? I mean, it was like real remedial
See, now they call them
stuff.
CLTs, right? Chief Lighting Technicians. And I don't know why they changed it, but I like gaffer.
Yeah.
I liked it.
This will be fun.
The gaff.
This weird, mysterious role that people don't,
Yeah.
they know, but they don't really know.
I was just regurgitating stuff that my former
Everything you learned in film
instructor
school
said.
about
Yeah.
what a gaffer is.
who was a G&E guy
Nice.
on like the Green Mile and stuff like that.
Yeah. My
there's
brain is
definitely
running a mile a
levels.
minute now. Like
Definitely levels to it.
Yeah.
CLT seems like that
Like
clearly
CRT.
defines what the role is, like
Exactly.
chief lighting technician.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But gaffer just
Stage.
It's
stage.
Yeah.
recognizable. It's memorable.
I do remember that from your episode. It has its roots in
stage.
Stage.
The gaff pole, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I got that part right, Corey.
All right.
Well, I'm sure you're right. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We could just expound upon it.
Yeah, yeah. It was just base level, like, and me talking about you talk about the guys in LA that have been doing it for years and years. I worked on a home improvement pilot early on with like a gaffer from LA who was old enough to be my dad. Like he'd been doing it for decades. And I shook his hand and his hand felt like a leather glove just because he'd been
touching balls,
bare-handing lights for so many years.
Yeah, I'm an LED gaffer now, so
Yeah. This
keep these
guy
hands
was
soft
like
and
HMIs, baby.
he only touched the old Mole Richardsons with that you could cook a steak on
exactly.
just with his bare hands.
Bare
Grabbing
hands.
10Ks with his hands.
No big deal.
Tungsten 10Ks.
R.I.P. Yeah, we're all LED here.
Yeah.
Actually, I do own.
I'm still a Fresnel guy.
I do.
We could do a whole episode on this.
Yeah.
Like a whole episode.
Yeah.
Lighting choices and why you would go with what, and because I think a lot of people don't understand like the budgetary constraints of lighting. You know, why tungsten can be more expensive than LED, even though LED is on sticker more expensive, but power supplies and man hours and labor, like
Bulb life.
that's my favorite conversations with producers. Like there's just not one way to do it. There's a million ways to do it. And you gotta, that's probably my favorite is like the puzzle pieces of like, that's why I like producing is the all the little puzzle pieces.
Figuring all that out.
That's probably why I like gaffing too, is you get to do that
There's a lot of that.
on a very specific level. Yeah.
All right, we're definitely going to have you back.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm down. We go deep.
Talk lights.
We go deep. Love it.
Yeah, we'll
Love
figure
lights.
that out.
Always have.
Yeah.
But until then, let's talk about some of this little lighter stuff.
Sure.
All right.
Speaking of lights, lightning.
Speaking of lights, lightning round.
I'll show myself out.
Thank you. All right, Barrett, all-time favorite movie.
It's a Wonderful Life, Frank Capra.
Oh,
Nice.
classics.
Capra, whatever. Yeah.
Excellent classic choice.
Immediately emotional emotional connection in that film. I mean, as soon as you turn it on, you're just like, whoa.
Okay. The last movie that you watched?
Oh man, I just watched Shazam again.
Shazam
For the second time. Movie's great. It holds up.
Is that the one with Sinbad?
No, this is the the DC.
That's Kazam, DC. I think. Or
Kazam, yeah. Shazam.
Do
we need an last art house movie I watched?
It wasn't Sinbad either.
Have y'all seen The Lighthouse?
No.
Yes.
I've heard about it though.
Is that the last?
That's the last movie I think that had a serious impact on my day.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts.
Quite shook after watching it.
4:3 hard.
And I think black and white. I think the 4:3 choice intensifies it. It's very claustrophobic. That's a good way. Like the technical influences. Like I think that's the film school and the work. I think the how that influences the art.
Yeah. So here's a question, like a side question. I should honestly ask this of all our guests, but when you watch a movie or a show, is it easy for you to let go of all the craftsmanship behind it and just enjoy it? Yeah, or do you think about the craftsmanship?
If it's good, I'm gone. I listened to Roger Deakins' podcast.
Yeah.
He said the exact same thing. I was like, that's exactly how I feel. But he was like, if it's good, he's out. Mm-hmm.
If something's wrong,
we'll do the film school. If the mise en scène is wrong, right? if you feel it, if you feel something's off, like then you start to be like, why? Yeah. And then you're like, is it casting? Is it the lighting? And, it's I don't know, most stuff. Like I'm just in it. I'm watching and turning my brain off and not thinking. But sometimes I'll see something really cool and then I'll have to go back and
immediately go back
figure it out. Like the Miss Maisel shot with the twisty. Steady cam. I was like, that's pretty cool. How they do that?
See, I think that's a luxury for people in our business to be able to turn it off.
Yeah.
And just immerse themselves. Because I know, every other person I know in this business, they can't watch something without thinking of every technical aspect. And I'm like you, like I'll turn it off and I'll just mindlessly enjoy something. Mm-hmm. But if something stands out, bad or good, I'm going to notice that.
For me, a lot of times it's the writing. Like I wouldn't call myself a writer. I took a lot of writing classes and, obviously I've read a lot of scripts, worked on a lot of projects, but like when I can feel the writing or I can, I see the acts and I'm like, they're really going for it here. But when like, I think Pretty Young Woman, that really surprised. I was like, I did not see any of that coming. And it was like shocking. I was like, I love when they set you up and like even with like a film school brain, you get set up for something and then something just totally flips and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I similarly, like I'm very AC, like camera tech minded. And I think it annoys the shit out of my wife. Like we'll be watching a movie or a show or something. And I'm really quick to call out like that shot would be impossible without a split diopter.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, why didn't they have a polarizer on there? Like you can see all the reflections. Yeah. You can't see through the glass.
You know what? One shot I'll never. It ruined the movie. I thought Revenant was so good, and then I saw one of the actors breathe on what I assume was the filter.
Oh.
And I saw and I was like, man, that ruined that for me. And I was
totally
like, it's such a subtle.
Yeah.
And I love Chivo. Like a Chivo walked into. I was PAing at this for this commercial company, and Chivo walked in. He was one of their directors, and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Chivo!" And they're like, "Yeah, dude, he works here." And they're like, "You got to chill out." And I was like, "That's Chivo." And I like saw him, and I went up and talked to him, and he was totally freaked out. And I was like, I like just super intense. Like I'm sure like cinematography super fans. Like I've had friends do that to Deakins. They were like, he was so freaked out. Like we were just so intense with him, and like what I did with Chivo, and I was like. But I respect his work. And I was just like, man, why did y'all do that?
You said that to him?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
okay.
would never.
Okay.
I would never critique multiple Oscar-winning Chivo.
There's a shot in Minority Report where you can see the matte box shadow on a dolly end, and I was just, this is Spielberg and Janusz Kaminski. Uh-huh. I'm just like. I remember it very well. I haven't seen Minority Report in years. I love the movie, but it's like I remember that instance.
Yeah,
because it's like, what the hell? What was happening?
Ignorance truly is bliss when it comes to this stuff. Like if you don't know, why would you ever?
Yeah.
And I'll even say it. We'll be shooting something, and you'll see like I don't know, like maybe a flag shadow, or just like, and I'll be like, nobody's gonna know what that is.
Yeah.
Like I'll know what that is, but nobody at home really will know what that is.
Like, this
sometimes
is
they
like-
do know what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do know what it is.
Yeah.
So,
This is like a dolly in towards a door shot, and you can see the matte box shadow creep up on the door as the dolly arrives at point B. Just like, come on.
I think the other thing too, though, like I definitely over-index because it's easy for me to like just turn it off and disconnect and just. That's the intent of a movie, is to disconnect from reality for that hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. But when I see something that like blows my mind visually, probably similar to you, I go like deep down the rabbit hole of how did they do that?
Right. Yeah.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
How can I recreate that? Like the Neon Demon.
yeah.
There's so much
right.
like just really cool shit. Like every other
Is that
scene.
then we have the talk, is that a film or is that a art piece? Is that, you know, it's like, that's one of those really curious ones where you're like, it's
But that
more about the cinematography than
the
story.
runway scene where she's in the like the pyramid, the two mirrors in the back, and that was so striking to me. Like I am recreating that for a music video. Very similar.
I mean,
like,
that looks
is
like
that
a music
not
video.
ideal?
That's
of the film.
Natasha Breyer, right?
Yeah.
Who shot that? Yeah. She's great.
but the ASC did like an amazing behind the scenes segment on not only just the cinematography, but a lot of like how they pulled a lot of the practical stuff off. So I was fortunate to find like some behind the scenes photos of like the grips, like literally building this whole.
Right. I think that's the best part of like the social media stuff now is like, I can, you know, if I see something I like it, I'll look up the gaffer or look up the AC
And then
I'll
behind the
I'll
scenes
DM them.
everywhere.
I'll be like, yo, I'm really curious how y'all did this. You know, we're thinking most of the time those people will be like, here's how we did it.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. For them, like it's because I get that like this test clip of this RGB shadow test shot we were doing. I've probably answered 5 or 6 DMs about how did you do this?
Yeah.
Where did you do this? I'm like, well, let me tell you, like it's super easy.
Yeah.
But
It looks more complicated than it is. That's why I was like,
absolutely.
you're doing this in a prism. Like,
Well, see, social that brings up a good point. I think social media has replaced the or it's filled the void where we don't have DVD special features anymore, really. So it's, you know, now it's just like go on Instagram and look up a DP. And
VFX breakdowns. I love all that stuff. Man.
Yeah.
I'd eat that stuff up.
But again, I think back to your point, like to the creators or the gaffers or whoever it is that is pulling that look off, like you hit them with a DM and say like, this was amazing. How did you do it?
Right.
They're going to take that as the biggest
that's a
compliment in
huge
the world.
compliment. Yeah.
And to your point, like I said the exact same thing. Like I said, I'll teach you exactly how to pull off this shot, but you can't use it until after my project releases.
Right.
So let's
one
make a deal.
condition. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's great. We're going to have to work that question into the lightning round, I guess. That's pretty good, Bill.
The
question, Bill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right. Favorite director?
Ooh.
It sounded like Chivo.
Nah. He just directs commercials. I don't know if he's directed films yet. Can I just give a list of like people I like have to see when their stuff comes out?
Yeah.
Okay. Taika Waititi. He's strong.
Oh, yeah.
Strong
Yes,
vision.
Yes.
Man, Tarantino, gotta watch first. Like, I'm just thinking like people.
He's only got one more.
What?
He's only got
I
one
know.
more coming.
Till
Like,
he's
I'm just thinking about
supposedly
people that
done.
like when their film goes to theaters, like I
Yeah.
have to go that opening night. Like
He
Nolan.
Tarantino, not to like sidetrack again,
Yeah.
but he just bought,
One of the theaters. Yeah.
I think he just bought a second one too.
Nice.
To revitalize.
That's great. Yeah.
No, all right, Nolan.
Oh man. I think when we watch as much as we watch, it's hard to pick one. I think it's crazy when people have one director.
Yeah.
I think that's so. I mean, because like a mood. I mean, I love like the Todd Phillips stuff. Like, you know, the comedy. Oh man, that's so hard.
For me, it's like, who are the favorites I grew up with, and who are my favorites?
Yeah, most
currently?
influential
Yeah.
on you,
Right.
and then
That's how I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you do what Ghostbusters Reitman, right? Ivan Reitman.
Mhm.
Those guys. I mean, too tough. I'm sorry. I know this is not what you want.
That's okay.
Well, then you go
That's a good
like,
list of names.
You go John Ford. You go Frank Capra. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Scorsese guy. I can say that. I guess. I mean, I'm just not like.
That's okay.
I like his
That's
work,
fine,
but
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a huge Coppola guy. I mean, I like George Lucas more than those guys, and I don't think that's fair critically. But like Return of the Jedi has more of an impact on me than The Godfather.
I hear that.
And I think that's a hard thing to say as a film. It's hard to say in film
it
circles.
is hard.
Like,
not in this circle.
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
I mean,
yeah.
I was such a Star Wars kid. I was such a, still am.
It's just so
Openly critical of some of the movie. It's just like, I love those
I
films.
mean, I had a hard time being a Spielberg guy in film school. Just, how dare you like Spielberg, you pretentious hack,
and I think people do that, but like they don't respect what an art. Like some of his dolly push shots is like the one you talked about. They show the map box.
Yeah.
Some of that is so well done. It's so,
yeah.
And it's like when you see it, like the Stranger Things when they're copying that.
Oh yeah.
They're copying that.
Yeah.
So
Stranger Things is a tribute to 80s Spielberg.
Yeah, for
100%.
For sure.
Hands down. All right. Most underrated or slept on cinematographer.
I think Natasha's getting her due now, but I think she's incredible. I thought Honey Boy was one of the best lens films when it came out.
Have to see that.
I love Bradford Young. I just like that style. I read all of his stuff where he basically will go key light, no fill, and he'll neg the whole room, which, as a G&E guy, I'm like, oh, that's so sick. Like you're putting black everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I worked with, some of my favorite DPs I've worked with don't use fill light. I just think, Argentinian guy I worked with, smoking a cigarette, holding a matte box on an easy rig, holding the back of the batteries. And he's yelling, we're like, hey, do you want to fill? He goes, I don't want to fill. And he's just yelling cojones, which y'all can get a translation if you want. He's cojones. And I just love that look. I love the aggressiveness. I think it's something you can only do in certain, you need mood, you need
like it has
contrast.
to fit the vibe. And
you could never do it for commercial work. Maybe some like the European like BMW commercials you could do, but very rarely you can see that on TV. But films, music videos, cojones. Yeah, so you'll hear me yell cojones every now and then. But I'm probably the only one who understands what I'm saying.
That's funny. All right, a little lighter here. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
My man.
But okay, so this is production influence. So I was drinking so much coffee on set. I don't know if y'all have studied your sleep cycles. I've studied my sleep cycle. I'm a bear sleep cycle. Imagine that. But basically, you need coffee in the morning. You need coffee in the afternoon, like around 1 p.m. after lunch, and that is your best part of the day. But I was drinking too much coffee in the afternoon that I was having a hard time shutting it down. So I switched to tea in the afternoon because it's a little lighter caffeine, and that really kind of helped balance my life.
All right, so coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon?
Depends. Like tea after 4.
Working in tandem with each other.
Yeah.
Or I'll do herbal tea. That way I get the experience, but not the caffeine.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good pro tip there.
Yep.
All right. Pineapple on your pizza?
I don't mind. I do like the Canadian ham in that version. I like barbecue sauce as the sauce. I'm a big pizza. Last year I was making pizza like pretty regularly. We had a pizza oven.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to make pizza, and definitely did a pineapple pizza.
Corey,
it has its place. It has its own place.
Corey, you are outnumbered at this point.
At this point, I feel like I just got to give it a shot.
But to me, you can't beat like a margarita pizza. I think that's the best form. I love brick oven, like a true Neapolitan style pizza.
What kind of pizza oven do you have?
My parents just sold their house, my mom's house, and they had just like a freestanding pizza oven. They got to
I want to get one of those.
Degrees.
Is it Umi?
Is it fire?
Yeah. It's a wood pellet.
Oh,
but
wood
then
pellet,
it's like a little freestanding.
Nice. Yeah, they're awesome. But to be able to cook a pizza in a minute is, you just get better crust.
I feel like that would be dangerous for me.
Yeah, it was a lot of carbs that summer. But it was COVID. We were all sad. That's how I dealt with it. I cooked all the time.
That's a good
baking bread,
thickened up a little
pizza.
bit. Yeah,
thickened up a little.
Yeah, I've got enough thickness.
Yeah.
So,
all right, favorite camera.
Ooh.
The 5D.
Can I just walk through like my camera history? I'm never gonna give you a straight answer.
RIP 5D.
Yes.
I loved those early Panasonics.
The DVX 100.
Yeah.
Oh,
on
yes.
the DV tapes. I loved those.
Yes.
And then the 7D, like really changed the game for me as far as like having depth of field. Got a 5D when I got to grad school. And then we just started seeing stuff on, like we had Red Epics. Love the Red Epic. But I mean, my favorite is probably the ARRI Mini. Love the Mini.
Yeah.
Now they have the Mini LF. I just think it's just the color science of that camera is so great. I think you do a lot of stuff with the other cameras. I just think that one is the easiest to get a cinema quality image.
Like a really good buttery skin.
I was going to say,
the highlight
Mike
roll
Stryker
off.
said buttery.
Yeah,
I've
the
heard
highlight
that a few
roll off
times.
is nice, and I just think what it does for people's faces is crazy.
Yeah.
As a gaffer, it made my job easy. It made my job really easy. Big soft light,
Yeah.
a little bit of back edge, and cojones.
Osito Moto?
I do, man. I've really enjoyed getting the Komodo. I think that was, I worked on your beta shoot, and once I saw it, I saw the practicality of it. But to have that much camera for that price
And that form factor.
and that form factor really allows me to do more quality work. And like I said, I've had a 5D for 7 years. It's paid itself off 40 times at this point. And so it was time for me to step up my game with a camera, and especially if I want to continue to shoot. And like I said, no one's going to put a camera in my hands and let me shoot unless I start shooting. And so I think it gives me good advantage as a producer shooter to have a package,
For sure.
of that quality.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy for us to do a nice 3-camera
For sure.
red
I think
match.
it
Oh,
pairs
so
well.
you have a Komodo
I
yourself?
do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do, sir. Yeah. It's his fault that I got one.
It would be his
It would
fault.
be his fault.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man. When I was in LA, it rented, several times. So I think it was a good decision.
Yeah. You can rent yours, well, not here.
Because
Right.
you'll compete.
Because y'all compete with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just run them together. 2
Corey
cameras.
owns ShareGrid in Nashville, basically.
That's good.
I
I
went
don't
on
want to
ShareGrid.
humble brag.
I went on ShareGrid recently, and all I saw was you.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody else.
It's okay. I'm gonna put myself with Corey's. We'll just compete together.
Yeah, we'll just it's a 2-camera package.
team
If
up.
you need a multicam.
If one's not available, I'll go with the other.
That's what we talked about. Like if mine's out and I need another rental, I'll just
Yeah.
send it to him.
It's easy.
And if you need some old tungsten Fresnels, I'm your guy.
That's what's up. All right.
Got a whole
R.I.P. Tungsten for
No,
now.
I love them. I think they're great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think the versatility of the camera is crazy. The stuff you can do with it.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, last question. 3 films everyone should see before they die.
Oh, goodness.
And only 3.
I mean, It's a Wonderful Life, I think, is a solid choice. I think it is a great story of the human experience. It may be a little dated for some people, but I really like the performances in it, and I like the story. And influential movies. I'm trying to think. I've just seen so many.
This one's a hard one.
Look, my daughter's sitting in the control room over there.
What should she watch?
If you had to recommend 3 movies to her,
Oh, man. No Country for Old Men, I think, is a masterpiece.
my daughter's only 12.
Yeah, she can't watch that.
I'm just kidding. That's a good one. Yeah,
It's an intense movie.
yeah. All right, and you're all over the board here now. Like
I'm just trying to think of movies.
It's a
that,
Wonderful Life, No
really-
Country for Old Men.
Really,
That was good. One more.
oh, man. I would love to just go all of Nolan, but, I love Inception.
Ooh.
Yes.
I'm just trying to think of, cinematic things that,
So good.
when I walked out of, that's my favorite feeling in the world, when you walk out of a theater and you can't speak because you're just so blown away.
And just just continue to replay it.
Yeah,
and
Inception, I had to watch multiple times, and the conversation. I was actually working at Governor Scholar program at the time, so I was surrounded by all these really smart people, and I got to just watching that movie with the guys. And there's this great picture of us after we watched it, where we're all kind of doing this and holding our heads, and, trying to converse with each other, what we just saw and the depth of it. And I just think Nolan has a great ability of just taking you to a place in your brain where
oh yeah.
and he doesn't give you all the answers, which I like. You have to form your own choices on what you just saw.
I mean, and that movie's a good example of that. Even still today, the ending, you don't know. There's all kinds of.
I rarely go back and see a movie more than once in the theater.
Same, yeah.
It was Inception and The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Both movies I went back multiple times to the theater.
And you would get killed in film school for saying that.
I know.
Like, someone would kill you.
I know. But it's just like, it's such an experience.
Inception's
and craftsmanship and everything.
Yeah.
Just like,
Inception's one of the movies, like if there's, I don't have nothing going on, I just need to watch something, like that's a go-to.
Extremely rewatchable.
yeah.
Which for like the quality movie it is, I think is wild. But yeah, I don't believe in this gilded view of cinema, and it has to be like you have to love The Bicycle Thief and you have to love Coppola.
That's that film school.
I grew up in Southern Kentucky. We didn't have access to some of those movies, and so the movies that shaped me were The Return of the Jedi's, the Indiana Joneses,
we had
Air
HBO
Force
when I was a
One,
kid, and
you know,
it was awesome.
yeah, it's like
Did you say Air Force One?
yeah, I love those movies.
That was
Love
my
big
first R
action,
movie.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
I love those movies. I don't think there's anything wrong with. I think you should know critically what to watch, and you should test yourself with some different stuff. But nothing wrong with tentpoles. There's nothing wrong with them.
I love that we've had so many people on this show that appreciate great commercial filmmaking.
Love commercial filmmaking.
Yeah. I am all about that.
Yep.
What do you think about Tenet?
Ooh, I can't slander my guy on the podcast. I don't know. I just think, and I think this happens with really good directors. I think sometimes, like I think it happened with George Lucas, sometimes you get to a point where you're so successful that people can't tell you no.
Right.
You know, and so I think it's really, like, I think for Lucas, it was really healthy when his ex-wife was the editor, and she did a lot of legwork on those movies of telling him, like, hey, this isn't going to work. This is, you know. And so, and some of the writers and some of the directors that he brought on, like, were really good. But I think, we'll see what Nolan does next. But I thought.
You think he needs a no person on his team?
You need someone to.
You gotta have someone to
put friction against your creative process. And you know, I don't know what the process was with Tenet, but I know his brother Jonathan's doing other stuff, and you know, maybe that was his guy for a long time. I know his wife is producer, and I don't know, but I thought there were just some questionable decisions. I thought the acting was, I think John David Washington
was great.
So fun to watch, but you know, I had problems with the audio and the story, and you know, but still, I mean, still a fun movie. Like you
didn't watch it in a premium theater.
Oh, I did watch it in a premium theater. It was one of the only movies I got to see during
home
COVID.
with subtitles on because I heard the audio was really.
It was tough. The audio was tough.
Yeah, the excuse was it was only tough if you didn't see it in a premium theater setting.
I saw it in a premium theater, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening. I have no clue. Which I had experienced, like with Interstellar, like you're like, I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
But then you work your way through it. But Tenet, I was like, I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah. Those are three great ones, though.
Love Nolan, though. You can make a bad movie and you can be a great director.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
okay. Just
and
make
it's really hard to make that size of a bad movie. It's really hard to make a bad movie.
Right.
That's what I don't think a lot of people appreciate, like how much work goes into a bad movie.
Yeah. That's good.
I love Spielberg, but I can name a lot of films he's done.
He's had some misses,
just like whatever, you know. Yeah.
How dare you?
Hey. I'm his biggest fan, but I can criticize him.
But I guarantee you, they're just like on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, got that one out, put it out in the world.
They know their process works.
Moving on.
Yeah. So,
Barrett, it's been so great having you here today.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed it.
It's been a lot of fun.
Enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next little chapter of my life. I think this is going to be a fun one.
Killing it in Nashville.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get you back on. I would love to get more technical with you on some Friday episodes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We'll leave links to all of your stuff in the show notes so everybody can find you. Put this man to work. Regional filmmaker, Barrett Dennison. Keep him busy. For all of our listeners, we know you have a lot of podcast options. We appreciate you choosing us. If you like what you heard today, go ahead and subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating. It would help us out a ton.
5 stars.
5 stars, please.
Preferably.
Nice words also go a long way.
Yes.
And until next time,
feed your crew
something delicious.